I managed to get my hands on a 404 Mk2. I'll do a review for you today, talk about this thing. I have some things that I wish that they can improve. That's why you see in the title of the video saying that I feel it's unfinished. I'm not saying because of that I would sell this. I would buy it again if I had to. It's a great sampler if anyone's doing lo-fi-ish, boom bap type of music, whatever you're doing. If you like that dirty sound, this is the unit to have. It has amazing effects. They've upgraded the effects. They've created new effects. You have bus effects inside there that it's just so easy to run your samples through, resample it to other machines, or just do it inside of the 404 because of the sequencer. So if you're looking for a sampler, this thing is a great sampler to have. And to mention as well, the price, they didn't boost up the price just because it is a new unit. They kept the same price, showing the people that follow the 404 for many years that they're really in it for the community. They're not just trying to rip off some extra dollars from the community. They're actually giving back by updating the unit with an OLED screen with all the new functions like mute groups, things like that really help working with samples. So it's great to see that they didn't just increase the price because they could. They kept the same price as the last unit. OLED, it's an amazing OLED. You can see everything in there. Means that you can really improve on a lot of things in the future with new updates. They can change whatever they feel like adding to the screen. I would really love to see the sequencer in the screen where you could go in and just move the MIDI notes, individual MIDI notes, change the volume of the MIDI notes. It would be like a great update for me to have that sequencer, just be updated. Because to me, that is really the downside of this machine is the sequencer. It's just, it's weak. They should really improve on it, but I feel like sometimes they're still catering towards their audience that really works with resampling. So, but it is what it is. I'm not mad about that. I just wish that they could, improve the sequencer. It feels like it's the same one on the previous 404A. The chopping is a lot better than what it was before. You have the OLED. There are a few things that I wish they could change on the chopping. Just one would be to assign the chop to the pad. I just really love doing this sort of chopping, just going through the entire sample. I normally like to take a big chunk and then just go through it manually and find my chops and then assign it to a pad. And it would be cool to have the option here to assign to pad. That's really all it is. When using the chopping function here, you always have to divide this into even bits, and then you cannot overlap slices, and you can't just take one of the slices out. So, I haven't worked much with this. Maybe I'm saying something wrong, but it's just not really the way I like to work. But hey, it's not a big issue because I can always just select like the area that I want from the main sample, and then just copy this to another pad, and then keep on chopping like that. Then I can slice another bit in another area and keep on doing it like that. So it's not really a big issue, but it would be cool to see in the menu the option to assign to pad without having to copy. I just like working that way. That's how I work with the MPC as well. But comparing the two real quick, one of the great things, and I think that's really the crown jewel of the 404, is the effects. Comparing it with the MPC, I really prefer this, and because it's catered towards the type of sound I make. Like, I wouldn't make pop music in here unless you want your pop music to sound dirty, because it feels like every effects in here are catered towards that and made towards people that like saturating their sounds, like making their sounds sound like it's coming from a cassette. It's like, it's really meant for that. They're catering towards that audience, and it shows, like, because it's easy to overdo. It's easy to add a lot of flavor to the music. If you're not careful, I was making beats with it, and at a point, like, I had way too much filters already on my samples. I was resampling everything and adding too much. So it's super easy to add too much flavor with this machine. So you always have to be careful. I mean, to me, I have to be careful with that, not adding too much, because the filters in here, they're amazing. All the effects they added are amazing. All of them can be used to do something to your sound, all of them. With the MPCs, kind of, they're still there, but they're harder to work with because it's a machine that's meant for everyone in the market. Like people that doing pop music can use the MPC. People that are doing trap, that doing whatever, man, whatever sounds you're making, you can do it on that. And the effects are harder to work for you to get to a more lo-fi-ish vibe because the effects aren't created for that. They're created for an overall, a general population of producers that, you know, you can tweak it and make it sound dirty, but it's much easier to do it here because it feels like the sample, it feels like the effects are meant to do that, and they actually are. And if you're thinking about using the two aside, that's probably a great combination. Make videos on that in the future. Unfortunately, the MIDI in this doesn't seem too good. I was trying to just use the sequencer in here and sending my MIDI messages to here, but somehow it doesn't work too well. Really, the only issue I had with MIDI is that my MIDI track here will only trigger the pads in bank A. It will not trigger any other samples on any other pad bank. I don't know why, but it will only trigger the samples on pad bank A. Yes, you can use this as an audio interface, but there's some issue with sampling hertz, which means this is at 48 and that is at 44, which I don't think that they can work together. But if you're using this in controller mode, then they can be used together. But it isn't all that. I've tried it. I've tried using this and that together at 48 kilohertz. But you won't be able to resample via this. It's the same thing as sending the audio and then back in again. It would be exactly the same. I'll show you in another video with workflows, okay? But yeah, if you tap on the MPC pads, they kind of like stick to your fingers so your fingers don't slide. In here, they slide a little bit, but with time, I think they'll probably end up offering some resistance on the touch. I'm not a finger drummer, so I don't really care too much about having bigger pads. These ones, they're just fine for me. I've had some issues with the sequencer in here. It feels like on the last part of the loop, when I tried to input a kick, like really on the last 16th note of the loop, it doesn't record. It pushes it into the first bar again. So there are some issues with the sequencer in this. There's no song mode in here. I think it would just, with a no LED display, you can add a song mode. Just instead of tapping on the pads telling it which one you want to go next, why not just have the OLED option to input the notes there. People have talked about this. Chromatic mode cannot be recorded, which is useless at this point, which I don't know, maybe it's good for you to try things out. If you're working with resampling, then you can record into the loop. If you're resampling it, you can record it on top of the drum loop that you're creating, which works great. And it feels like they're giving this to the people that are working with resampling, because most people are when they're working with the 404. But I think they'll be coming up with updates, hopefully, and they'll start changing things in the 404. One of the things hopefully will be the ability to record the chromatic function into the pattern sequencer. One thing that could improve the workflow would be to print the effect to the pad instead of just going into the resampling function and resampling that pad to another pad. Why don't just have the print effect to pad, and that would just, it would make the workflow a lot better, because you can't have an effect per pad, which means you're going to have to resample. And if you're going to have to resample, why not just cut all that work of going into the resample to another pad, and then chopping the other pad and doing all these things where you can just print the effect to the pad, and that will just, take you like 2 minutes off of your hands. Because the MPC already has that. It's called flatten the pad on the MPC. It feels like an MPC in certain ways as well, this thing. And that's why I think I really love it, because It has all the things that I need on an MPC, which is mute groups, pad links, which is simultaneous play. I would really love to see pad mutes on this. I think it's one of the great things about the MPC, that you can play just muting the drums, unmuting the drums. I would love to see that workflow on this one. Another thing that I feel like needs improvement is plugging this via USB into the laptop and actually seeing the SD card, because it doesn't show up on the computer. I don't know if it's something wrong I'm doing, but it just doesn't show up there. And I have to take the SD card out, plug it in, and then I can transfer my files. Because what I'm doing actually now is actually have this connected to the laptop via the USB, because I can sample straight from the computer if I want. And the reason why I'm doing that is because previewing sounds on this again, needs improvement. So if I want to preview a sample, I'll go into the Shift, Import, Export. I want to import, and I want to import a sample. I'll go into whichever folder I want, and then I'll assign something to a pad. So, okay, I want to assign, I have to select a pad. Let me select this pad right there. I'll press enter. It loads it up, and then it goes back into the main screen. So this is bad workflow. It should go back to the folder where I was at, because now I have to do the same thing. Import, sample, go into the folder that I was. I don't even know which folder it was, but I have to go back into it and then choose the other sample. So I wish it could just always default back to this screen where I was, and not go into the main screen as it does like that. Because of that, I'm actually just plugging this into the computer and just loading my samples from the computer via the resample function. I can just be on my folders on the computer, just choosing a sample, resampling it through the resample function into a pad. Much easier than to be using the preview at this point. But again, that's one of the great things about this unit, is to actually resample whatever you're hearing in the computer. It's just amazing. Something that I've always wanted on the MPC is actually here. So I have the USB into the computer. If I'm watching a movie, if I'm listening to whatever on YouTube, I can quickly go into the mark, which is the skip back function, and whatever I heard on my computer is now on my SP. So it's super easy to sample. The skip back function is really amazing. If you're just jamming something out and you really like what you did there, you can actually go into the skip back and everything was recorded. So I think it records 25 seconds. And for people that work with sampling, having that is game changing, really. So brilliant from Roland to include that. So yeah, but nonetheless, please improve the preview function. It's better just to have this plug into your computer and to previewing on your computer and resampling it to a pad, because you can't be playing a sequence here and going into the preview at the same time. Yeah, another bad thing about previewing samples is that you cannot hear it when you have a pattern playing. So if I have the sequencer play, and if I want to try to go into the import, it says exit the pattern select. So I have to go and stop the sequence, and now I can go and import samples. This is why I prefer to just sample straight from the computer, having the SP404 actually connected to my laptop, and whatever I play on a laptop, it gets recorded into the SP404. So if I'm in the studio, I'll probably have this connected to my laptop just so I can sample anything I want. I can work with this machine as it is, but there's a lot of things that could be improved. And that's one of the things, which is, for some reason, whenever a pattern is playing, you cannot go into another window. One of the annoying things about this is that you always need to be exiting screens to go into another screen. It doesn't make much sense. If I'm already selecting Shift to go into another screen, it means I want to get out of the other screen. Why do I need to press exit to exit a screen to go into another one? If it needs to stop the pattern for me to go into the other screen, just stop the pattern if that's what it takes. But don't make me be, pressing extra buttons to do a simple thing. I want to go into the chromatic. Oh, you have to exit the screen. All right. So just exit the screen. Do it for me. Why do I need to do this and then do that and then do that? Like, 4 extra steps just to do what I wanted in the first place. These are kind of like requests at this point, but there are a lot of things that I feel like need improvement. Like, why can't I copy to several pads at the same time to have different effects or to have different chops, whatever it is. It's a great unit. I really like it. It is here to stay in the studio. I'm going to make a lot of beats with this thing. I really like the way it sounds. Whatever I said that needs update, they'll probably bring it in an update. And even if they don't, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'll still be working with this thing because it just sounds great. I really want that sequencer to be better though. I was lucky to get this unit. Actually, it feels like everyone wants to get one of these, but they're only going to be available in like 2 months or something like that. I actually got this unit from a local shop here in Portugal. I don't know, but they had one there, so I just bought it. I was actually lucky because I was thinking I would only get a unit like in March, maybe February. But actually have it right here because I just decided to phone up a local shop and they had it. So I was lucky with that. And now I'm making beats with it and some videos for you guys as well. I'll be making more videos with this alongside the MPC just to explore workflows, 60 of course, and just sampling stuff from the Rhodes into here. I've been testing that out. It just sounds amazing. I love the effects in this thing. More than anything, the effects in here are just amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Take care.